Coming up on this episode of Tom Talks Rubbish.
I would hope my legacy would be that if I can inspire more people with more people with differences to follow what they like. And I'm not just talking like cerebral palsy, I'm talking about all differences or all disabilities, however you want to word it. I just want to be able to inspire people to follow what they want to do with their lives.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by a very, very good friend. I'm joined by the one and only Anthony from the Anthony podcast and the Anthony YouTube channel. So, welcome to the show, my friend, or back on the show, should I say?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Tom. It's a great honor to be in your presence.
Likewise, my friend, likewise. So, if we take this back, Anthony, for the good people that might not know, who are joining us from your show or new to my show, etc., where do you first discover wrestling, dude?
I
There's no
I
rule.
I discovered wrestling in June of 2002 when John Cena debuted on SmackDown against the Angle debut match. Sorry.
Was that you? So the first broadcast you ever watched was John Cena's debut, yeah?
Yeah. Like the debut match. Because obviously there was that day segment on SmackDown Halloween Party. You might not remember.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough, dude. So when you saw John Cena, what did you think? Did you think he'd become the star that he is today, or was it sort of like a, nah, this guy's not? Do you know what I mean?
When I look back on it now, because at the time I was 6, 7 years old, so I just thought he looked cool at the time.
Mm,
But when you look back on it now, he was just a generic baby face,
mm.
wasn't it? If
Yeah.
you if you remember, he came out wearing the hometown colours.
Mm, mm. I understand what you're saying completely there, dude. So you talk about him being generic. If we compare that to John Cena, uh, however long his career's been, like because we're in the final year of
25
his
years.
25 years as we record this, man.
Yeah,
Where is your fandom of Cena now as we record this?
like to be honest, when it comes to wrestling, I'm not that big of a fan of John Cena now. I just don't enjoy his work now. But when it comes to his work rate outside of WWE, like with the filming and stuff, I admire that work rate.
Mm. What is your, I don't know how many John Cena films you've seen. What is your favorite John Cena film, man?
Honestly, man, I can't remember the name of it, but he was like, I can't remember, mate. To be honest, I can't remember. Sorry.
Can you describe the plot, man?
Basically, basically, yeah, he had to pretend. No, no, mate, I can't remember. Sorry, apologies.
No worries, man. My favorite for anyone that cares is either Trainwreck or I think it's called Trainwreck or Blockers, which is hilarious, by the way. Or there's one that I watched recently with him in. Oh yeah, with Idris Elba, Heads of State, I believe it's called. That's
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, that's only just come out, hasn't it? Like that,
Yeah,
that's only just been released,
as we
hasn't it?
record this, yeah, it has.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. But but I personally think when it comes to pro wrestler turned actor, I would say John Cena's probably second behind Dave.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Dave Bautista has probably become the best actor out of the three of them. So,
Even
favorite Bautista movie, man.
it's cheating. If I say Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's not
No,
the.
no.
I love the Marvel franchise.
Favorite Marvel movie, man.
I like the Spider-Man universe. I like the Daredevil universe, and just things like that. I don't know
Who?
whether Sorry, I don't mean to cut you
No,
off.
carry on, man.
I
Sorry.
don't know. I don't know whether Spider-Man counts because it was sold to Sony at one point.
It
So
counts. It's still in the Marvel universe. The best Spider-Man for you, man.
I would have to say, the films with Tobey Maguire, like
Mm.
like the original trilogy, because That's what I grew up on.
Yeah, you're the same as me. The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, which I can't think of its name, Spider-Man 3 when his suit changes color and things like that. I
That's
fully agree with you, man.
that's not the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm talking about the ones before that with Andrew Garfield.
Oh, I thought you said Tobey
No,
Maguire.
sorry,
My
no,
bad.
sorry. Tobey Maguire. Yeah, sorry, Tobey Maguire. The one in the early 2000s.
So I took
Apologies.
away my answer there. Andrew Garfield is my favorite, to be honest.
If I if I'm looking at it from an objective point of view, I think Tom Holland is probably the best out of the three of them, to be honest.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Why do you think that, man?
Because I just think you think I think Tom brings the charm to the role, and no disrespect to the other two, but I just don't think they bring the same charm.
I would agree.
Because I believe he was the youngest actor that played Spider-Man out of the three.
Think you're right, man. I think you're right. So anyway, where is your current fandom of wrestling, Anthony, as we record this in May of 2025?
Honestly, I predominantly watch WWE because that's just easier for me because it's on Netflix. But I
Mm,
do watch AEW as well. But because I because of how AEW is set up, it's a lot harder to find the time to watch it.
mm.
Like with WWE, I can just turn on Netflix and start watching. And with AEW, it's not as simple.
How
I
do
I don't mean to cut you off, but if I'm looking at it purely from a content perspective, I think AEW is putting out the better content as we record this.
mm. I also think as we record this, there's been a lot of backstage drama with WWE at the moment that's clouding a lot of fans. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I also think because WWE are making a lot of financial profit according to the reports, I think they've got a bit complacent.
Mm.
And I don't want to take this back too much because it is your interview. But the John Cena heel turn, I think
Yeah.
it's been a disaster.
Yeah, it's not been great, has it? I saw this pitch online where I was like, he should have turned heel in the match, and then we should have gone from there. I fully agree with that, if I'm honest.
I think it was too much like The Rock, to be honest. And because The Rock hasn't been there, I just think it's been a complete
Yeah,
waste of
I
time.
think, like you said, man, I think the biggest problem is The Rock almost, for lack of a better phrase, instructed him to turn heel. And the fact that we've had no interaction from any of them since then just makes no sense. I do agree.
And also, it feels like Cena's playing the role of being a heel. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously we know they're all playing characters, but I just don't buy John Cena as a heel in the wrestling bubble. I
Mm.
just don't think it's been. I just don't think it's been written very well, and I think because they've already started teasing the teasing the face turn. I just think it's a bit it's a bit redundant. The heel
Mm.
turn. Is
I
that the
understand.
right word? Redundant.
Yeah, definitely. Like they did it for, to use a wrestling parlance, the cheap pop, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I think because I don't want to speak for you, but I think because a lot of fans have been waiting for the heel turn for so long, he was never going to be able to live up to live up to expectations.
I
I,
agree,
al-
man. I agree.
I, I also think if they did it a year ago, before we knew that it was going to be his final year, I think it would have meant more.
Mm.
But,
Mm.
but obviously, Cena's got other commitments.
Mm. Yeah, I understand what you're saying completely there, man. Well, you talked about there for you currently AEW putting out the better product, but you still watch WB and things like that. So what keeps you excited about AEW and things like that, man?
I still feel people can say what they want about the matching. I agree with some of the criticism. I don't agree with other sides of the criticism, but I still think most of that roster is electrifying when it comes to in ring. And
Mm.
at the moment, one of my favourite wrestlers in AEW is Will Ospreay.
Why is Will Ospreay a favorite of you currently, man?
Because when I watch Will, it's like going on a roller coaster ride, and it's
Mm.
just electrifying. I do understand the criticisms of Ospreay, and to an extent, I understand them, but I don't personally care because it just to use a wrestling term, it just pops me.
It's like I love his promos. As someone that grew up in the same hometown as him, or say a county is the word we use in England, the same sort of county as him.
Yeah.
I love his promos because he'll mention Essex stuff and things like that. And I love things like that. I also love, I don't know about you, like the one that comes to mind because he'll use like British TV commercials. Barry Scott, bang, and the dirt is gone. I popped for that. I'm not gonna lie, man.
but, but I bet most of the Americans are gonna be like, what's the big deal? But if you're not from America, having somebody from your own country make it in America on any kind of TV really doesn't mean something.
Definitely, man. So, where does the content journey begin for you, my friend?
It began it began for me like probably in 2011 because my first ever video was me talking about WWE SummerSlam for that year.
Mm.
I don't know whether you remember or not, but the main event of that show was champion versus champion.
Is this when
Cena.
they had the two belts,
Yeah,
which was Punk and Cena?
yeah. When they completely ruined the Summer Punk,
Oh yeah.
the second one.
Why was that the time that you were like, I'm gonna make videos? I've got some opinions to spurt out, man.
Because to be honest with you, mate, I was watching a lot of wrestling creators of the time. To name to name a few, I was watching OTI. Uh, did you ever hear of the channel called Off the Rope Show? I don't know how much. I don't know how much you were plugged in to the wrestling media, to the
I
wrestling
wasn't at the time, man.
content creation space.
No, I wasn't at the time, not as much as I am now.
So I started watching them, and then I thought I wanted to do that, so I just gave it a try.
Mm.
One second, Tom. Apologies, one sec. Yeah, so I just gave it a try, and
Mm.
now we are here today.
So you talk about there giving it a try and things like that. Because we've spoken quite openly in DMs
Yeah,
because we had the same disability and things like that.
yeah.
Because of your disability, was there anything that you thought this is going to be a challenge when you first started as a creator?
Honestly, Tom, I wasn't thinking about it back then. Ironically, do you know if I started today, it probably would cross my mind because I feel like nowadays, this is gonna sound really weird, but I feel like nowadays the internet is more beauty, is more vicious when it
Mm.
comes, and it's like gonna sound really funny because obviously in terms of monitoring social media, it has gotten better.
Mm.
But
No, but I do understand what you're saying. It seems like since we were kids, especially because I was around 11, 12 in 2011. And I don't know whether I wasn't paying attention, but it does seem like there's a lot more vitriol spilled out on the internet now than there was back then. Do you know what I mean?
and don't yeah, yeah, I completely understand that. And don't get me wrong, it was still a toxic place back then, but almost it felt like okay, you just have to deal with it back then, if you know what I mean. Because nobody was really monitoring it back then. If somebody sent you a viral message back then, you just had to deal with it basically because there was nowhere there was nowhere to really report it.
No, I understand what you're saying completely there, man. What about like how has being a creator changed you, man? I know in research you took quite a few years off. If you want to tell that story, you're more than welcome. But like, how has being a creator maybe helped you and things like that?
I'll answer your first question first and then I'll work back. That's okay.
Please,
So
man.
it helped me to improve my speech and it helped me to articulate myself better and just improve my overall confidence.
Mm. Mm. What about how taking those years off as a
Uh,
creator?
I around 2014, I think it was. I was having a lot of physical problems, like my right hip. Basically, my right hip had always been dislocated, but it was causing me a lot of pain, and also became my spine was getting curvier,
Mm.
and curvier because I had a bad I had a bad wheelchair, and
Mm.
I was leaning over in it all the
Mm.
time. So
Mm.
as the people can probably imagine, eventually, naturally, your spine will get curvier and curvier.
Mm.
So they said we can do both of them. We can do both of them at the same time. Because as I said, my right hip was causing me a lot of pain because it was dislocated for years.
Mm.
And what they did was, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a long-winded answer. So what they did was they put a metal rod into my spine to to straighten up to, to straighten up my spine. But one of the metal screws from the rod came loose
Mm.
and it was digging into my back and it was causing me referred pain in my leg. So basically, I thought the pain was coming from my leg, but it was coming from my back. So
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't sit in my chair for 2 years. And I was just an angry person. So I just decided, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore in terms of making content. But eventually, they figured out what was wrong with me, and then I went back to and then I went back to college for a short time and did a media course, and then I decided I'm gonna start making videos again.
Take me back to making that first video, man. Back sort of thing. How had the landscape changed by that point? What creators were still there? What made it sounds like a very philosophical question. What made you think that there was still a place for you in the creation space after such a long hiatus, if that makes sense?
To be honest with you, Tom, I wouldn't think about things like that. I just wanted to start recording videos again.
Mm, What was this passion that was driving you, though, man? I'm really curious about this.
Because I still had the channel, and I just felt like rather than letting it go to waste, so to speak, I could be using it. This was years before I started the podcast, but I'm sure we're gonna get onto that soon.
We'll get into that now, actually. How did the great podcast come about and things like that, my friend?
So, 2020 it was a horrible time for a lot of people, and one day I just decided I want to hear people's stories because if I'm being honest with you, mate, I just needed to do something to stop myself from getting down.
Was this during the pandemic, man?
Yeah, but as I say, it was a difficult time for a lot of people for obvious reasons, and I just needed to do something to get my mind off it, to be honest. And I just thought, why not give it a go?
Who was your first interview, man, for the good people that might not know?
My first, do you mean the first interview that's actually public on the channel, or do you mean like my actual first interview?
Let's go with your actual first interview first, and then the first one that's published on the channel, if that makes sense.
So my first interview was with an actress called Nikki Boyer, and she's a podcaster, and she had a podcast called Dying for Sex with her friend Molly. Molly had stage 4 breast cancer, and we had started following each other a couple of months before that. I don't know why we started following each other, but I just DM'd Nikki one day, and I said, would you like to come onto my podcast? But unfortunately, back then the audio wasn't great.
Okay.
So I just decided, if I'm being honest, I decided to take it down because I wasn't happy with the audio.
Okay. What about the first one, man, that's on your channel and like people can go view now?
So the first one that's public is the one that I did with sport presenter Laura Woods. If you like football or if you like any kind of sport and you're from the UK, you've probably seen Laura on Sky Sports and TNT Sport and every single major broadcaster that does sport. You've probably seen Laura on there at one stage or another.
I understand. How did that feel then to get someone that public to come on your show? What sort of accomplishment did that feel like?
Honestly, mate, internally, I let out a great big yes, like internally. But I was also quite shocked as well because I did not expect somebody with over 100,000 followers to even respond to me.
No, I understand what you're saying
But
completely.
I just decided to give it a go, and yeah, Laura responded. So my point is, even if you think somebody's not, even if you think that's not going to be possible, give it a go, because you never know what could happen.
Is that your advice for people that might want to start a podcast, man?
Yeah. But even if they say no, it's not the end of the world. You can just move on to somebody else. And once you get that one yes, it can start a snowball of a chain reaction, and then you can and then you can keep on getting guests left and right. But sometimes it does slow down, so you have to be prepared for both scenarios and just take it as it comes.
That's why, and not to talk about myself too much, but that's why you and I have had this conversation. Like, why don't I release content a lot quicker? It's like, I would rather, I don't know about you, I'd rather be consistent and build an audience that way than upload like 4 videos in a month. No, 4 videos in a week and then disappear for 2 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, as I've said to you before, privately, we had we, me and you are doing different things with all due respect, and it all depends on what you want to do. Like, obviously, you're happier just doing interviews, and I like to do more personal videos, like talking about my disability and stuff. So we are doing different things
Yeah. I
with
fully
all
agree.
due respect.
I fully agree with you there, man. And like, I'll be honest, I don't have the confidence to talk about my disability the way that you do. So where does that actually come from, though, Anthony? Your confidence and willing to speak about the downside's the wrong word, but it's the one that I'm going with. Do you know what I mean? The side of, do you know what I mean? The downtimes of your
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I I I I would call it some of the most complex some of the most complex aspects of my life.
yeah, and that sort of vulnerability side, if you know what I mean. Where does that come from?
because because the way I look because the way I look at it, Tom, I can't change who I am. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I do, not to make myself not to make myself down too old here, but I'm nearly 30 this. I'm going to be 30 this year,
You
and
are?
it gets to the point. It gets to the point where you can either be miserable, like you can either be miserable like your life, or you can just embrace it and just make the best out of it. And
How
obviously,
did that shift happen though, man? Because you mentioned yourself that when things were going bad, originally you were quite an angry young man and things like that. So how did that shift sort of happen?
it's because I went through that. That once we found out what was wrong and we were able to get it fixed, that made me appreciate that that ultimately life is too short to be to be to be to, to let things get you down.
Mm.
And obviously everybody's story is different. Like, for some, it all depends on what your story is and your situation is.
Mm.
You
I
know,
understand what you're saying completely there, man. How do you deal with, because I love what you do as a creator. You upload when you want, you upload what you want, you upload what you want when you want, sort of thing. And then sometimes you'll just disappear for 2 weeks if you don't feel like recording. So how do you deal with burnout as a creator, my friend?
honestly, mate, honestly, mate, sometimes I still struggle with that. I still struggle with that sometimes. Because I'm not gonna lie, I do feel guilty. I do feel guilty from time to time when I don't post. But over the last couple of months or so, I've just realised that it's all about quality. It's all about quality over quantity.
Mm,
And as you say, I could upload. I could upload 50 videos in a day, but I would rather make content that means something to me, that I'm passionate about, rather than just recording for recording's sake.
You
And
talked about there being passionate about your content, man, and things like that. Is that why your channel doesn't really follow a theme, if you know what I mean? Like some days you'll have a video about football, some days you'll have a video about wrestling. Is it truly based on what you're passionate about?
yeah, because 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 obviously my if I'm being honest with you, Tom, my channel would grow a lot would grow a lot quicker, excuse me, if I was to stick to one topic, because obviously it helps to build an audience, but I because the way my brain works, if I'm in on something, I'm into it, and I can get so into it that I can I can make myself get burnt out. Like for example, when I was doing MMA content for a long time, because the way the UFC is. Obviously, we live in the UK. For people that don't know, but if you're following the UFC, they don't, their shows, their main card shows don't start till 3 a.m.
Mm,
And if you're doing that, if you're doing them live, then obviously you have to stay up till 3 a.m. and then it doesn't finish till 5. And then I spent 2 hours recording, and then by the time I got done recording, I was physically and mentally burnt out.
mm, mm.
So, so, so that's why I stopped doing MMA content. And to be honest, I wasn't really enjoying it anymore anyway.
I understand what you're saying completely there, my friend. So you talked about there the things like that and enjoying your content and stuff like that. As we look at wrapping this up, man, because I do want to be respectful of your time, I have two questions. Do you view your channel as a success? And what would you want your legacy to be?
I I thi- I think I think I do view it. I think I do view it as a success, because I've been able to stand the test of time, so to
Mm,
speak. Because as I said, I've when I first started when you when I first started making videos, if you wanted to if you wanted to record videos, you had to download a program
mm,
and an editing suite. But now most devices come with one installed, so
mm.
things like that. Because I've been able, I don't want to say evolve with the time.
No, but I know exactly what you mean.
But I've been able to adapt to how the internet is now, and I change from that end.
Um,
I might not like how it is now, but you can't really complain. I always say I always say you have to evolve, otherwise you're gonna get left behind.
definitely, man. What about your legacy as a creator? What do you think that is?
I would I would hope my legacy would be that if I can inspire more people with more people with differences to follow what they like. And I'm not just talking like cerebral palsy, I'm talking about all differences or all
Mm,
disabilities, however you want to word it. I just want to be able to inspire people to follow what they want to do with their lives.
mm. That's really,
And
really cool, man.
and if I can do
Sorry,
sorry
dude. Carry on. Carry on.
and if I can do that, that's what I would feel as that's what I would feel as a success. And that's what I would hope my legacy would be.
Just quickly before we do a very quick round of generic wrestling questions, how important is Dom Smith from Give Me a Whole Yeah and places like that been to you as a mentor, as a creator, and just as a friend? Because I know how close us three all are.
That Dom's been Dom's been awesome to me because there's been times where I just needed to talk to somebody about it because I tend to overthink a lot.
Mm.
So Dom's been very helpful in just talking to me and just I don't want to say calming me down, but you know what I mean, like helping me to put things into perspective. Because sometimes I feel like I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like sometimes we can we can we can we can think uh, we can think oh I'm not great at this, and you just need to remember if you were really not that good, people wouldn't people wouldn't have started following you, and people would not have started supporting you. And honestly, there's a lot more other things more important going on in the world as well.
To be honest, my friend, that's a beautiful way to end this. But before we do, are we okay to do a quick round of generic wrestling questions?
Of course,
So as we wrap this up, guys, we are going to do the classic wrap-up segment, which is called generic wrestling questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before, when I swear I'll ask Anthony his favorite match, favorite pay-per-view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, for example, favorite wrestler's entrance theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, the questions I assume Anthony's asked on social media. So now he'll have a place to be like, guys, I've answered this. Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time, my friend?
my favourite match of all time has to be Joe versus Punk, not the one from 20, not the one from 2023. I'm talking about the classic ones from the early 2000s, and them their matches introduced me to CM Punk and Samoa Joe. I think I enjoy their second match out of the trilogy.
That's really cool, my friend. What? I know you said this one isn't one of your favorites, but what did that mean to you to get that match in England and things like that one more time?
If you just looking at the match as a match and you ignore what happened before it and after it, it was a great moment. But obviously, it was spoiled because of what happened afterwards and what happened before it and
Mm.
things like that.
I understand what you're saying completely there. What about you? Sorry, dude.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say, in 2004, if we would not have gotten cable and we wouldn't have got the wrestling network, I would not have seen the matches.
Mm. So, how important, just quickly, before we do your favorite pay per view, has the Wrestling Network and the Wrestling Channel been to your fandom, man?
It's been it's been it's been a big influence on my fandom. As I say, I would not have watched Samoa Joe. I would not have watched CM Punk, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Brian Danielson, and so many more names that have gone on to become legends.
Mm.
Because and this is when they were early in their careers. And for the people I don't know, the Wrestling Network was a channel where they showed different promotions from around the world. So they showed Ring of Honor, they showed TNA, early days TNA, they showed CW, they showed Noah. I think they showed some New Japan as well.
Mm. That's really, really cool, my friend. What about your favorite pay-per-view card overall?
Uh, I'm gonna have to say, all in. Sorry, all out 2021. Because
Why does that one speak to you as a fan?
that show and everything, mate. He had the matches. He had the debut of CM Punk, Adam Cole, and Bryan Danielson, and the card as a whole was not that bad. Like you had CM Punk and Darby Allin. You had the main event between Christian and Kenny Omega, and it was just. I believe. I also believe they had Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks
Yep, they did in a cage, my
on that
friend.
card. Yes. So
That's
yeah,
really,
that's a really good show.
that's really, really cool,
And
my
I
friend.
and I give honourable mention to Money in the Bank 2011 because without that show, I would not have started making content. So that show always has a special place in my heart.
That's really cool, my friend. What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Can I take the fight? Can I take the final countdown?
Yep, yes, you can.
Hmm.
Why does that one speak to you, man?
Can it just one of them songs where it's just one of them songs where everybody can cheer and everybody can sing along, and it's just awesome.
I really agree with you there, my friend.
And I would put Will Ospreay songs in the same category where the crowd go Osprey, Osprey.
I fully agree with you there, man. What about your favorite tag team?
Agent Christian.
Why do
I
they
ju-
speak to you as a fan?
because they could go in the ring, they could do the comedy, they can both cut good. They're both good on the mic, and if we're being honest, mate, they they both had really strong single career,
Mm,
and no disrespect to the Dudleys or the Hardys, but you can't really say that. You can't really say that about them, can
mm.
you?
I understand what you're saying completely there.
Not in the same way, anyway.
No, I do get what you mean, my friend. And then finally, the biggest genetic question, in my opinion, Anthony, who is your favorite overall wrestler of all time?
The moment show. Well, it changes all the time, but today it's the moment show as we're recording this.
Why does he speak to you as a fan, my friend?
Because back in the early 2000s, he could do a standing Hurricane Runner.
Is that why? You just thought he was cool because he could do that?
Yeah, and he had the presence that he could kick anybody's ass.
What did it mean to you, just quickly before we get out of here, man? I know he's older and things like that. What did it mean to you to see Joe lifting the AEW title?
He meant the world to me. I do say he's not the same performer that he once was, but I think I just think it was a great run, and at the end of the day, in my opinion, he wasn't supposed to be this great. He wasn't supposed to be this 2 month, 2 year reign, like the Ring of Honor one, like the Ring of Honor one was.
Mm,
It was just, it was clearly just supposed to be a short reign, and and Joe did what he had to do, and
mm,
he and he got some really good promos. I
mm,
personally think if we had the early 2000s Samoa Joe in the ring wise with the 2010s Samoa Joe promo wise, I think he could have been the face of WWE.
mm. That's really, really.
But I also think he went to WWE a bit too late in his career, to be honest. By the time he went to by the time he went to WWE, he was not the same performer that he once was.
I fully understand what you're saying completely there. As we wrap this up, Anthony, I want to say thank you for yet another great conversation. But the question I end the show on, you know by now, you've been here a few times, is I believe as YouTubers, podcasters, even just people with social media, we're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very, very, very weird way, if you think about the word. So what is one piece of content you're like, please remember me for that? And then what is one that you're like, nah, I'm good, you can forget about that?
In terms of the content that I would like to be remembered for, can I just say that? Can I just say the whole podcast room, even the quote unquote bad episodes, I want to be remembered for, because the way I see it, it's nice to see where I'm starting from and see where I improve. So even though I'm not really proud of some of the early interviews that I've done, basically what I'm trying to say is, even though some of the early episodes are not great, I still want people to remember them, because it's a good lesson that, that anybody can improve in terms of the videos that I wouldn't like to be remembered for. Like, there was a few videos where I just ended up whining and complaining, and there's something wrong with being emotional, but let me tell you what it was. Yeah, it wasn't even me. It wasn't even me talking about anything of any real significance. It was just me moaning about why isn't the channel doing very well.
No, I get you.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with being there's something wrong with being emotional and being personable, but there's a difference between being emotional, because you want to be honest with people, and there's a difference between just whining for the sake of whining. You know what I mean, Tom?
I get what you mean completely, man. I really do. But as we wrap this up, Anthony, please promote yourself. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
So the good people can find me on Instagram at Anthony21. You can follow me on X at Anthony21. You can follow me on Instagram at Anthony Talk. And on YouTube, if you type in Anthony Talk 1 with the at symbol, it should come up.
It's well worth doing, man. One of the hardest working people just in content, but one of the nicest as well.
I almost forgot to mention if you want to follow the Anthony podcast on Spotify, not all of the episodes up there, but every episode of season 2's up there. So people want to follow me there, and they can do.
It's well worth doing, man. I forgot my own outro for a second. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Tom Talks Rubbish, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching this Tom Talks Rubbish conversation. Before you go, please make sure you leave a like on the video, share it around, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish on YouTube, as well as follow Tom Talks Rubbish on Twitter/X.